I can't believe I do this. Honestly, I'm shocked. I just saw the extent I'm willing to go for something as little as eating pizza and watching a TV show. So here's what happened. My mom made plans for me without checking with me first. She wanted me to go see my grandma, but all I wanted to do was take my pizza home and watch my TV show. My first reaction was trying to think of ways of how I could get out of it without them knowing that's what I was trying to do. I thought I could react in anger and cause an argument with my mom to the point where she just says, "Fine, don't go." I thought, how can I lie to get out of it? One idea was to emotionally manipulate my mom to tell her I was stressed and tired and just needed to get home. Another idea was to act like I didn't see the message or turn my phone off and make it look like my battery died. And then finally settled on the idea with the least risk of being caught, which was actually manipulating my grandma to come to my mom's house as if we wanted to surprise her. To hide the manipulative technique I was planning with my grandma, I first created a layer of protection. I did this by purposely reminding my sister of times where my mom had upset her, knowing that by doing this, she would side with me if anything backfired. When I got to my grandma's, I acted sweet and caring by emotionally manipulating her into feeling that we love having her at our place. But really it was all an act. My only intention was, how could I get home to eat my pizza and watch my show? I then lied to my sister and convinced her that I would take my grandma back home later, but really I never had any intention of this. I was basically saying I'll come up with a plan to get out of that later on. I just said what was needed in the moment to get what I wanted. At first I didn't give my grandma an option not to come to our place. If she wasn't willing or reluctant to come with us, I had created a few reasons that I know would have convinced her to get my way. First, I would point out that we got food and that it was getting cold, knowing that she would want us to get it home quickly. So I created a sense of urgency while still acting sweet with her. If that didn't work, I was planning to make her feel bad by saying, "We went and got food and then went all this way to pick you up, and now you don't want to come." Basically putting her in a situation where she feels like she has to come with us. I was even willing to act like it was a surprise and tell her that she's not grateful for what we did. I was basically willing to do anything to get what I wanted. Good Lord, I can't believe I was going to call my grandma ungrateful based off a lie just to get my way. Could you imagine? So when I got home, I acted all excited and happy that grandma was here and we were together. But really, I didn't care. I just wanted to pawn her off for someone else to entertain so I could eat my pizza and watch my TV show. I sat with them for a couple minutes to make it out like I actually wanted to spend time with them. I even entertained their conversation, knowing I had no real interest. I was just waiting for the moment to exit. It was all just an act. I waited for the right moment when conversation was flowing to sneak upstairs to eat my pizza and watch my TV show. At one point I heard them calling for me, so I went to the bathroom and wet my hair a little. I then shouted downstairs telling them I just got out of the shower and that I'd be down in 5 minutes. That way I could watch my show a bit more and finish my pizza without them thinking I was just blowing them off. Eventually I went downstairs and asked if the water heater was working properly because it took a long time for the water to get warm. Again, to reaffirm my lies in their heads and to give a reason why I was upstairs for so long. After rejoining them, I would chime in the conversation here and there to make it look like I actually cared what they were talking about. Really, I was just talking here and there to make it seem like I was actually engaged and cared. I was just pretending to spend quality time together. I intentionally made sure I didn't start any new conversation topics, hoping my grandma would just leave after she finished eating. I faked a few yawns in front of my sister and said out loud, "I think I have a headache coming on," trying to plant a story in their heads so that I didn't have to take my grandma back home. My grandma only stayed for about an hour, and my sister said she would take her home. In that moment, I spoke up and mentioned that I had promised to take her home earlier. Just let me take some tablets for my headache, and I should be fine in about half an hour. My sister was like, no, if you're not feeling well, it's okay, I'll take her. And I acted like I felt really bad about this, but this is actually what I wanted. So my sister took her home, and I got to watch my show and eat pizza in bed, as everyone believed I had a headache. So all this lying and manipulating just because I couldn't say what I really wanted to do, which was to watch my TV show and eat pizza.
So the level of detail that you just gave in that example was fantastic. I mean, to see all those things that you're doing right now in this moment is very difficult, you know? And you've been able to identify at least 15 to 20 individual techniques, you know. Firstly, even though we've been doing this all our life, being able to see it now in this moment, how did it feel?
It felt pretty awful, really, to see that I was doing all those things, you know, to get what I wanted for stupid reasons, really, you know,
Exactly.
like just pizza.
Exactly. And so, yeah, like when we summarize those things, you know, we were willing to cause arguments, you know, we brought our sister in, we used our sister, you know, we manipulated our sister, we took our grandmother from her house to our house in the evening, we manipulated her, acted a certain way to get her on side. Then we had created all the scenario upstairs where we, you know, made it out so we had a shower and this and that, all just to watch a show and eat pizza. And if you think about it, we probably didn't get to enjoy it properly because we couldn't relax.
Yeah, all the sneaking around, you know, trying to
Yeah.
be with my grandma, you know, hang out with the family, but then, you know, just wanted to sit by myself and enjoy myself. And instead of actually saying that, you know, going through everything I did to try to feel like that was going to satisfy everything.
Exactly. And we do all that planning, organizing, lying, manipulating, just because we're not able to say, I don't want to do that this evening, you know? When we actually think of it, why are we not able to just say that? You know?
Yeah, I could have avoided all that if I was just like, no, I saw my grandma yesterday for 3 hours. Sorry, Mom, I'm coming home and I'm just gonna chill by myself because that's what I feel like doing. But
yeah, and so, you know, we've been doing these kind of things our entire life, you know, and so we think it's normal. And in this particular example, you use those techniques. In another example, there's hundreds of other techniques. It's like roots of a tree, you know. Depending on the scenario, we'll take this technique, and this is just in this particular shadow of reaction. There's so many other shadows which we'll start to investigate later on. And so, you know, we have to keep looking out for when we're using these techniques, and when other ones come in, and actually seeing that as part of ourselves right now, you know. It's really interesting, but really good that you were able to. Not many people can really look at themselves that clearly, and that level of detail. And so now that you were able to see that, what's going to happen is you're going to, in all aspects of our lives, we're going to start to see, you know, similar things in relationships, maybe in our work life, friends, you know. Have you been able to recognize any already?
yeah, like, you know, with my girlfriend, how I react with her and, you know, did this whole scenario of, you know, trying to set up a situation where she would realize that she needed to keep drinking on her own. And
so you are recognizing those scenarios.
Yeah.
If you've recognized any in work situations.
Yeah, just kind of the same thing where
Exactly.
I want to do something, but instead of just saying that up front,
Yeah.
you know, I try to spin everything and maintain like the perception of me instead of just speaking the truth.
Yeah. And so, are you able to go into the techniques you use in those kind of scenarios, like the example that you just gave, to that level of detail, or as best as you can?
Yeah, I can try.
Okay, cool. We'll give that a go.
So after reliving the first example, I'm now starting to see other techniques that I've used in other parts of my life. There was a scenario with my girlfriend. She couldn't handle her alcohol. She would get messy and embarrassing just off a few drinks, and she rarely remembered the events when she was drunk. I had been planning for a while to use a specific moment when she drank too much to basically react emotionally and try to get her to make the decision to quit drinking on her own. So we were on our last night of vacation, we had dinner and a few drinks, and I could see she was getting to a state of drunkenness. So I acted fully cool with her drunkenness. I actually encouraged her to drink more so that I could create a scenario that she would be ashamed of in order for me to get the reaction I wanted, which was her to quit drinking. When we got home, she went straight to sleep. I purposefully slept in the other room and ignored her the whole next day until she approached me. I was like, "Are you being serious? Do you not remember any of it?" Which was all manipulation on my part in order to make her believe that her drinking was out of control and to get her to worry about what she did. I made it out that I couldn't even explain what happened. It was that bad. I acted like I didn't believe that she couldn't remember any of it, that it was an act that she was playing out because she didn't even drink that much. So it was not possible for her not to remember, purposefully causing confusion to make her believe she had done things that she didn't actually do, and that it happened with a little bit of alcohol, just a couple of drinks. One of the bar staff was Mexican, and I told her she was imitating his accent in a very racist way, amongst other racial slander that I just can't repeat. I told her she was snapping her fingers at them to serve her, and that she was demanding service in a very rude way. When I told her to stop and that she was out of control, she tried to slap me. She did this in a number of our previous arguments, so I knew I could use this and she would believe it and have to accept it. I told her at one point she was flirting with a guy in front of his girlfriend, being very touchy and making him feel uncomfortable. And when I confronted her about it the night before, she threatened to break up with me. That night I had dropped my phone on the ground and cracked the screen. The next day I told her that it was her that threw my phone on the ground and cracked the screen out of anger. I made it out as if I was totally embarrassed and couldn't take it anymore. I told her the bar staff threatened to call the police if we didn't leave, and that she continued to argue and create a scene. So I continued to keep distance between me and her for the next 2 days, pretending like it affected me a lot, to basically manipulate her emotionally so that she felt like she had to walk on eggshells. I made her feel ashamed and like she had to go above and beyond to make it right. My only agenda was to get her to choose to stop drinking and make her feel like it was completely her decision. I waited and waited until eventually she came up with that solution by herself to appear that I had no influence on that decision. Yo, I can't believe I actually did that. Instead of just talking to her about her drinking problem, I had to manipulate her on another level just for her to decide to quit drinking on her own. Wow. And now I just saw another example with my work. I own a business with a partner who shares 50% of the company. I know I'm doing more work than my partner, so to me it's not fair to split the money evenly. Instead of talking to him about it, I realized I've been using these techniques to show him that I'm better than he is, and to get him to see that I deserve more of the money. I emotionally manipulate him so that he places his full trust in me. I support his ideas even when I don't agree with them, just to make him feel like he's bringing value. I constantly point out the work that I'm doing and measure it against all the work that he's doing, but I do it in a way where it's not complaining, but it's very obvious that I'm doing more of the work. I send emails outlining and detailing all the tasks I've completed, purposefully to make him aware of all the work and hours I've been putting in and all the work that he's behind on. I constantly check on him to see where he's at with completing his tasks. I subtly point out what he hasn't completed, but I do it in a way that makes him believe I need this specific thing done in order to get my task done. But that's not the case. I really just want to point out that I'm doing more without appearing that way. I indirectly present all of this information in order to manipulate him into agreeing to what I believe. I spend my evenings searching for errors in his work to show his lack of competency. If I can't find any, I create some errors in his work on purpose and then point them out to him. But ask him about it like, is this correct? As if I didn't already know. While I was fully aware that it's not correct, and I'm using it to try to get him to see that he doesn't deserve 50% of the money. I study his tasks and workflows to make sure there's no way my sabotage can be detected. I make it out as if I asked him about something a few days ago when I really didn't. Or I bend what I actually asked him into something slightly different, so that there's no way that he could have accomplished it, or maintaining the possibility that he misunderstood what was needed. Again, indirectly showing him his lack of competency and making him believe that it was his error. I meet him out for drinks and purposefully get him to drink more so he'll be hungover the next day and can't get work done. That way I can call him out on it. With the 10 employees we have, I tell them that we can't get the current task done until my partner does what he needs to do. So constantly I indirectly push the narrative that we're behind because the partner hasn't completed his task, subtly creating a belief inside of them that he is incompetent. All of these techniques allow me to justify the fact that I deserve more money.
Okay, so two very interesting examples there. If we noticed, all those techniques in the example with your partner were basically purely because we couldn't just ask our partner directly to stop drinking, and with the work situation, we could not sit down and have a meeting with our partner and just say exactly what we feel, that I deserve either an increased salary in relation to you, or a larger share of the profits, or you need to step up, something direct and clear. Instead, we had all these techniques and things happening out in the background in order to try and hopefully get the same result. It takes such a huge amount of energy, and most of the times, if not all of the time, they never actually give the desired result. And so, it's really good that you're able to see the part of the mind that's kind of calculating, in the background, and then figuring out what you should say or do externally in front of the other person, or in this case your partner, your business partner, to get that desired result, And so if people watching this, if they can look from that same point of view, and this is happening in every single interaction. We've had a couple of more conversations, where we've seen how this is playing out in like every aspect of our life, and so if you're able to find similar traits, they could be completely different examples, they could have their own calculations, because we've just given here 3 general examples that play out in everybody's lives, but in reality there's many different versions and many different techniques that we have not included here. But yeah, if you can discover any, please feel free to put them in the comment section, because they'll definitely help other people.